Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and transitioning out of the military isn't just about leaving the uniform behind. It's about navigating a whole new world, often without a clear roadmap. Our guest today, Alex Muddiman, knows this challenge firsthand. A self-proclaimed cyber nerd with a deep love for history, gaming, and of course, cats. Yes, his cat is with us today. Alex has never been one to simply accept the status quo. From growing up in the Northeast to forging a unique path in the Air Force, his journey embodies resilience, curiosity, and an innate desire to challenge convention. Alex served nearly a decade in the Air Force, first on active duty and later in the Air National Guard. His dream was to fly, but a series of pivotal moments, including a medical evaluation board that cut short his flying career and a knee injury that led to medical separation, forced him to rethink his future. Despite these setbacks, he seized the opportunity to bring clarity to the often murky transition process. Now, as he navigates his next steps, he's uncovering gaps in veteran support, challenging how things are done, and always asking why. Today, we're going to dive into his unique military experience, the hard lessons learned during transition, and the advice he wants to share with everyone here. Alex, brother, welcome to the show. Finally getting this done. We have kicked the can down the road on this a couple of times because I am piss poor with time management from time to time. So I really appreciate your patience, and I'm excited to dive into this with you, man.
Yeah, holy shit on that opening. You should write biographies for people because I wasn't sure with the information I gave you what you were going to write about me because I don't have any of the. After listening to probably 40 of your podcasts, the intros on some of your other people, I'm like, why does this guy want me on here? Like, I don't have anything special. I'm a nobody, right? So, thank you for that. That was very, very humbling on somebody else putting my life in perspective.
Well, I appreciate the words, man. I do want you on here because I want as many veterans to come on and tell their story through transition and how they navigated it, the challenges they faced. Because you know what I'm doing, man. I'm just trying to put these conversations out there for guys like you and I who, I was at rock bottom at one point, ready to take my own life. And I know that this could have helped me know at least that I wasn't alone in the thoughts and feelings I was having and the struggles I was going through in transition. So it's not about accolades. It's not about, making somebody look good. It's just about, in your own words, telling who you are and what you've accomplished. So happy to have you here, dude. First question for everybody: where did you grow up, and what inspired you to join the Air Force?
So I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts. So I was a kid of the. I was born in '87, so my birthday was actually just on Sunday. So
Happy belated birthday!
yes, thank you. It was a wild weekend. Drove 8 hours to Denver on Saturday. Woke up, had brunch, went to a concert, drove home on Monday. So the concert was for the wife because she wanted to go see a band on my birthday, which is fine. So
What
it was
band?
really her birthday present, not mine. Brand new. They had a reunion tour. But yeah, so I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts, home of basketball, if you don't know that. Home of the Springfield Armory that built all of the firearms for the World Wars before they shut that down, which we'll get into part of my story as far as history and culture and my schooling. Um, yeah, so pretty normal childhood, I would say. A lot of it I don't remember, and that goes into some of the diagnoses that I have later in my life as far as ADHD, which we'll get into at some point. Lived a couple miles from school, walked home, walked to school, right kind of deal.
Barefoot uphill both ways in the snow.
Not barefoot, but it was downhill, downhill, down a valley, up a little hill. So there was a downhill and an uphill every day, but not.
You're a product of the '80s, so I'm sure you heard that a lot back in my
Yeah,
day. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, mom and dad were together up until I was in high school. There's some stuff there that we didn't learn till later about my father that we think now played some roles in that, but he was trying to do the right thing, and we'll get into that. Didn't really have a lot of military influence as far. My dad was in the Navy, and again, we'll get into that. But he was only in for about 3 years, and then got out, and then uh, we had Westfield or Westover Air Reserve Base where they had
Mhm.
a lot of air shows. So he loved going to air shows. He brought us to that all the time. He was a Shriner, so we did a lot of stuff community wise for that. Had I known back then how to utilize that on like college applications or things like that. I could have used it to my advantage for community service, but mother was a nurse. So all through growing up, probably until high school, she worked night shift. And my dad watched us, well, quote unquote, watched us. And I don't knock on my dad. There's a lot of indifference there, and I'll get to it. And then, but my mom was the rock for me and my brothers. I'm youngest of three. My oldest brother is 7 years older than me. And we had our troubles growing up. My middle brother's only a year and 9 months older than me. So it was always just enough that, so in the Northeast, it's K through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12.
So it's always enough that he's just a grade ahead of you.
Well, he was always at the max grade usually, and I would come in, so everyone would know I'm his little brother, and
Right.
nobody messed with my other brother because you don't mess with the youngest one. So I always had some protection, and then as I got through them, I didn't get bullied, right? I did get bullied, but not in the same sense some other people do because I was a weird child. And I say weird. I was always reserved. I was always quiet, but always thinking, and that goes into some stuff later in my life that I figure out. So my traditional, I wasn't a crazy good student, although I did get into the gifted program in 6 through 8, which is our middle school. And then when I hit high school, it was like I didn't care, but I knew the information. Like I was just bored all the time. And again, that gets into the stuff later. You might see my dogs popping around in the background there because
probably see mine too. Yeah. They're dogs. Let them be.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned this in my thing. I did actually enroll in the delayed entry program for the Navy when I was 17. Thankfully, my mom pulled me out of that. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I just wanted to be the elite of the elite doing the crazy stuff. She pulled me out of that before I turned 18, thankfully. And then my mom was thankful I graduated high school because I think my GPA upon graduating was like a 2.25 or like a 2.31 or some shit like that, with like 70 days missed of high school. I was just bored out of my mind. And then after I graduated, I was like, I don't want to do school anymore. She was like, you either work or you do school. That was the rule. So I worked even through high school, I worked CVS I was a shift manager, but I was too young to close or open the store because I was just in there until like 10 o'clock or whatever. But I was always a performer at doing things with my hands and whatnot. So I was like, I'll do that for a year. And then I did it for a year. I was like, I don't want to do that. That's bad. She was like, well, figure something out. I was like, I want to be a welder. So I went and got a welding certificate. Or I shouldn't say cert. I actually got a welding degree. It was 3 months on, 1 week off, 3 months on for a whole year. And at that point, I had transitioned to working at Best Buy doing car audio install as well. But the problem where I lived was my schooling was in Connecticut. And anyone that doesn't know the Northeast, when I say a different state, it's like driving a town over. Like Connecticut, I was on the border of Connecticut. It was like 30 minutes to get to the schooling. But then my job was 30, 40 minutes in the opposite direction. And I didn't have a car because mine broke. So this is where my mom comes in clutch all the time. I mean, I don't know how she did it when I look back on it. So we would wake up, me and her. It was just me and her because my other brothers had moved out at this point. And we would wake up. She'd bring me to school or down in Connecticut. She would drive back north. So south is my school, and she'd go back north, go to work, leave work midday on her lunch break, pick me up, drive back north, past her work, an additional 30 minutes, drop me off at my job, go back to her work in the south until 6 or 7, then drive back north to pick me up, then go back home.
Jesus, man.
We did that for almost 6 months. I don't know how she did it, but she's a godsend. She's easily the most important factor in, I think, all of me and my brother's lives. As far as, I mean, our grandmother, our mère, she was too. So
how do you end up going from welding to Air Force ROTC?
That's a fun question, right? So growing up, I loved computers. I was always in them. And I was thinking of the stuff today of things to talk about. And my brother got an Xbox, and we played Xbox and Halo and stuff all the time. And then he used to work at Lexus, and a buddy of his called William Bradley, gorgeous model, amazing dude. He just on my birthday one year, we were just having a small gathering and people come over. He came over, he bought me an Xbox, like just handed me an X. So I had my own where we were always using my brother's, and that's kind of where I got into the can I tinker with this thing? Because my dad had computers.
So you're not thinking like, man, I'm gonna play video games. You're thinking I'm gonna
Oh,
take this motherfucker apart.
I did play with video games, but eventually there were issues like the red circle of death,
Yeah, the
right?
red ring
And
of death.
the red
Yeah,
ring of death. So I'm
yeah.
like, well, fuck, I can figure this shit out. And then I was old enough at the point when that stuff started happening. I go, okay, I can replace it if I break it. Or I was going to buy the new one, the Xbox One, and that kind of stuff. And that's where I got into modding the Xbox One and adding hard drive and upgrading that stuff and figuring out how to bypass things. Nothing crazy, but just enough to itch the curiosity of computers for me. Because computers for me became a getaway in my life. And I think part of that led to why I didn't uh, do as many bad things as a child. I should have been arrested on numerous occasions and been in jail, and I wasn't, thank God. But we also didn't have cell phones to the
Yeah.
extent we do now. So,
Well,
uh,
this is interesting, and we're close enough in age that I didn't have a computer in my house until I was a senior in high school. So I was born in '85,
yeah,
right? So, but
that's my brother was born in '85.
yeah. So for me, I also grew up in rural Indiana, so it
Yep.
takes some time for stuff to filter to the middle of the country. So
Right.
maybe a little different. Also, I bought my first cell phone, which is the very first flip phone that ever existed, was the Verizon StarTAC, if you remember. And I think it cost me, I don't even know, it was like $100 for the phone, and then my bill was $17 a month. And I only
Right.
bought it because I had a job and I could afford it. Everybody else had pagers. I could never get a pager. I never like or whatever. But like this is interesting because I feel like we're in this weird generation, right? Where like we didn't grow up with technology in our hands, but we were exposed to it at like a point in our lives where it just became something that was easily adoptable for us.
Yeah.
Like looking at my parents, they come to me for all their tech questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? I didn't know you could do this on the iPhone or whatever, and I'm just able to pick it up naturally. You kind of agree with like we kind of grew up at like this good time. I do
Yeah.
think, however, kids these days are so much more advanced than I'll ever be.
Yeah, I'd say that we grew up at the time where we weren't early enough to get like a solid core understanding at command line of being like we got to the GUI interface
Yeah.
kind of stuff where we got to get a little, but it wasn't as simplified as it is now with like the IDEs, the integrated development environments and stuff like that, where it's automating things for you. So we kind of got a little bit of both worlds where it allowed us to get way down low level and still be able to merge it up top, where a lot of the low level guys, they're fucking stellar and they got into the GUI. Like the early mid 70s, early 80s guys that were old enough to tinker with it. But yeah, same thing here. My older brother got a computer. So my dad did taxes. He had a tax degree out of our basement. So he had a computer and he got one for my brother when they went off to college. So that was my first introduction, and we got to play. I mean, we had gaming. We always had gaming consoles in the house. We had NES, Super NES. I don't know. You ever hear of Sega Saturn?
Oh yeah, I had one.
Yeah. So we had a Sega
I had a
Saturn,
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast. Yep. We had all that stuff.
I had
So
an Atari that I was
I
never
didn't.
allowed
I
to
didn't
play.
have an Atari. I think the earliest one we had was just regular Nintendo.
I think the
But
three of us, we shared a Game Boy. The not the color, the regular Game Boy with Tetris was the only game we had, and my
we
mom
never got a
actually
Game Boy.
beat Tetris. Yeah.
Never got Game Boys. And then yeah, so we've always been kind of in that space. My brother was always doing the code or getting into coding and understanding the command line stuff because he was the older one, obviously 81. He was born. So I got into, like I said, I was always around it. I didn't get quote unquote home PC until 10th grade, maybe ninth. No, it had to be ninth or 10th grade, where it was kind of my personal one because my middle brother bought his own so he could
Mhm.
have his own because he was working a lot and doing stuff and he was already out, graduated. So that's once it became mine and my mom didn't use it, she didn't care to use it. That's when I really got into the computer tinkering, swapping memories, understanding Northbridge back when there were North Bridges and South Bridges kind of deal. So I always enjoyed it and it was my getaway from the world. I didn't and again, this kind of gets into the ADHD thing that I didn't know I had in the developmental. It wasn't a developmental in the same sense that people are thinking. I didn't have the ability to read people, so I was super awkward in engaging with people. I've only ever had like one best friend growing up, and we're still best friends now. But he's the only other person that got me,
Mm-hmm.
and we just kind of clicked. And so, anyways, computers kind of all my life. So I go to welding because I wanted to build off-roading shit. I've always liked off-roading in trucks, and so I had a Jeep to mess with, a Cherokee, not a Wrangler, sadly. Too expensive. Didn't have that kind of money. And then I was like, I'll just welding is useful. It can do a lot of things, and I can use it to do off-roading welding kind of deal stuff. So I did that. When I graduated, I ended up landing at a place called Wood Group. They were gas turbine ground generation rebuilding. So think of a turbine on a jet engine, but 100 times bigger for out in the Middle East. Yeah, they swap them out and they send them to us, and we tear them down and rebuild them. I did that. Oh, shit, what year was that? 2000. I want to say I graduated in 2010. No, had it been 7 or 8 was when I graduated welding school, and then I got that job. I worked there for about 3 years, I think it was, and then they decided to send everything overseas. So all of our work went overseas. And underneath something called the Trade Reimbursement Act, TRA, since there were X amount of sized force of labor was going overseas, we were entitled to up to 2 years paid for free for a degree and anything we wanted that was up and coming based on the job market. Our unemployment, we got paid every week. We just had to call and send in our attendance for school. We didn't have to like go looking for jobs or anything. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm taking that. I'm gonna go get an associate's in internet network security, game programming, and databasing. I was like, you're gonna pay for it, sweet, why not? And then through it all, I was looking at it, I was like, I'm 20, so that would have been 2011 is when 2010 is when I got laid off, September. It was too late to enter the semester then, so the next time I could was January of 2011. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to fly. And flying to me is still one of the most amazing phenomenons that we have.
It's
I don't know
awesome.
why. The ability to just do it that something else naturally can, and we made it so we could, was wild to me. And the physics, it's just neat. So I was like, cool. Let me look into a private pilot's license. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't have that kind of money. Uh, they wouldn't let me use the thing for that. I was like, okay. So if I want to fly, it's the Air Force, right? So from September till January, I devised a plan, and I brought it to my mom, and I said, this is what I need to do. Because I'm going to hit an age cap if I want to get into the military and fly airplanes. Like, this is my chance right now. So prior to that, during the welding thing, they had needed somebody who knew computers to work a new machine they got and start doing the inventory and uploading it and building out the database and stuff. So I started working that, and they sent me to school for, and this is important because they sent me to school. I asked them to take a couple night classes to kind of help with that, like Visual Basic and understanding computers and that stuff, just bare bones stuff. I should also mention that I did try to go to college right out of high school and got told that I was an asshole by a teacher because I told him that he was wrong because he told us to do something out of a book by 4 people with PhDs, and then he told the dean that I threatened everyone in the classroom. So I wasn't exactly the best candidate straight out of college or high school. And again, part of that has to deal with my ADHD, and I'll get into that again. So there's just a lot of stuff there. Anyways, going back to, sorry, tangent squirreling.
So you get to ROTC. You're gonna fly.
I haven't even gotten there yet, right? So
Okay.
this plan is legit. Like, I have to do this in 3 years because I'm going to hit an age cap if I don't, and they're not letting people in older. So January of 21, I go to what's called Springfield Technical Community College, which is the old armory grounds of where the Springfield Armory was. And my mom was like, if you can make this work, I'll back you on it and we'll make it happen. She's like, I can tell by your plan, I'm not going to talk you out of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the dean there, Brian Candido, super amazing guy. I think he's still the head of the IT there. And I walked in and I said, Brian, you don't know me, but this is my plan. And I handed him literally line by line every course, how long they were and where they were. There was one single course that wouldn't fit in my timeline. He's like, I will make one course. And if you're the only one in there, doesn't matter. You need it. And if you're following this and you stick to it, you're good. So I ended up doing my associates in less than 18 months because I needed to be. So January to September of 21, I was just a student because I entered ROTC as an AS 250. That's where you skip freshman year and you bundle it with your sophomore year. So you do freshman and sophomore at the same time. So September of 21 is really when I joined ROTC, and that was a boatload of 18 to 21 credits for the next 2.5 years, 2 years roughly. Now, you might not know this, but there's certain detachments for ROTC. My detachment was at UMass Amherst. UMass Amherst is 45 minutes from where I live. Now, at this point, I'm going to stick. I also have to go to what's another college called Western New England College to do my physical training because that's only held as a crosstowner at Western New England because that was their other campus that they did things at because that's where a lot of their students came from. But you could there's like 12 schools that could do cross-college cooperating stuff. So I'd go from stick Mondays and Wednesdays after or before class over to Western New England, do my PT, go back to class at stick. And then on Thursdays, I had to drive to UMass Amherst. And this is important later when I talk about a commander that I didn't like. Anyways, so we do all that stuff, and I'm in ROTC, and I get picked up for field training, which is our version. I don't know, you know what it is?
It's basic, right?
It's kind of our basic, yeah. It's our 3 weeks down at freaking
wherever it is. Not important.
No. And we do that. I get through there. My commander was like, "Oh, I was expecting to be top or your bottom third." And I mean, I'm 25 or 24 going through here, and I'm not prior, so I don't have any knowledge, but they're all 19 and 20. Like, I've had life experience I've done, and it's not knocking on them, but it's a different aspect of this isn't what the military is. I know that from a fact. So I get back, we pass, we become AS 300. So you're a junior now. I'm still doing 18 to 21 credits all the way through. Now I'm at Springfield College for my 4-year degree because I had to roll my associates from stick because they don't do 4-year degrees at stick over to Springfield College where basketball was invented. Now I'm at Springfield College, Western New England College, and UMass Amherst. Except now I have to go to UMass Amherst 3 times a week because that's where my AS 300 and 400 classes are, and my lead lab, which is on Thursdays. And then during that time, we're eligible for a loan, that USAA loan that we can get and not have to pay until we're back and until we're actually commissioned and whatnot. And that's important because I run into my first instance of leadership I don't want to be. And that was my commander, who I was 25 at the time, so I didn't need to go to him. I was doing it as a courtesy to let him know what I was doing financially. And I was like, I'm going to take this loan out. I'm going to pay off my truck so I don't have a payment going into field training, all this stuff to prep me, right? I had to move my field training up because my unemployment was going to run out, all that crap. And he goes, if you were my enlisted member, I would make you take the bus and force you to sell your vehicle. And I was like, the PVTA it's a 3-hour PVTA bus ride. Are you out of your mind?
Right.
So he just didn't have any concept or understanding of the issues people are doing and they're bringing you a solution, and he's just being a dick. So I go through all that, and then our drops come, and I get combat systems officer. Not what I wanted. I didn't get pilot because they still said my eyesight was bad, even though I had LASIK done specifically to try and get to 20/20, which I've had done again just because I hate glasses. Get picked up for CISO, and yeah, my Air Force career kind of starts there and go down to Pensacola.
So, man, a lot of shit you went through just to join the Air Force.
Yeah, it was wild.
So let's talk about, you eventually do get to go to pilot training.
I get to go to combat systems officer training, different than pilot training.
However, you're still in an airplane.
I am in an airplane, yes. And I always joke that people say that I'm Chair Force, and I go, yes, but mine sits at 30,000 feet.
Right.
So,
this is where you discover you've got some serious problems, physiological problems that you're probably not going to be able to overcome, right? Sitting in that airplane, you were going up and you're getting
in Pensacola, We didn't know it at the time. We just thought it was normal air sickness. It wasn't until I got to Barksdale when I got to the B-52 as an EWO, electronic warfare officer, that they really hit me. So we go through training at Pensacola. I have issues catching on to things like radio calls and all that normal crap, and I think whatever, it's just overload.
Yeah.
And then we do like maneuvers, and I always got sick on like teacups and whirly bat and shit like that, but I'm like, okay, whatever, it's just motion sickness. And we do that stuff, and then from then on out, I just let the instructors know, don't do any crazy hard banking, don't be a maneuver person, and I'll be fine back here. And the one time I told that to a pilot, he was an A-10 pilot, and he was a real rough dude, and he goes, yeah, I'm still going to fly it. However, and I was like, oh, God, okay. And we ended up having an in-flight emergency. And I say emergency, he lost control of his trim. So I had to control it for him. So it kind of made it so he couldn't be all crazy with it, which was nice. But anyways, yeah, so I go through that and we're like, okay, whatever. He's just got air sickness. And we get to Barksdale, Louisiana, which is another gross base to be at because it's just hot and muggy all the time.
Yeah, Louisiana sucked.
Yeah, but that actually gets good at the end of my stay there. Yeah, we do all my ground training, go through EWO, do all the flight sims, all that stuff, great. And we get to fly, and we fly once a week as we're training. So you do Mondays, it's like planning, briefing, whatever, and you fly Thursday, debrief on Friday. So the first flight we go up there, they're expecting you to get sick. So in the B-52, there's a ladder, you climb up, you've got two bodies in front of you. So you're facing the front of the aircraft. It's a double stack, so there's two tiers. You got your nav and your Wizzo. Then you go up another set of stairs, and you're facing the EWO seat, and then behind you is the EWO instructor seat, and then to your left is when you go to the nose of the aircraft. So, but the EWO seat is backwards, and there's no windows.
Great.
So every maneuver is inverted. Left is right, right is left, and it all throws it off. And they're like, okay, you just have air sickness. Everyone gets it back here. It's pretty normal. Now, thankfully, they had the reserves there, and they had a reserve on orders. And she was, I forget her name, and she was a captain, and she was amazing. I had her every flight for 3 consecutive flights. Thankfully, because she was able to see everything I was doing, and we were trying, and she was able to document it very meticulously to rule out like, hey, this is not normal air sickness. There's something going on here. And I'm not just complaining to complain, right? So we go through all that, and they send me the Barney Chair. And that's a fucking ride if you've never done a Barney Chair for 3 days straight.
That's the one where they just put you in and spin you around, right?
Yeah, and you do all kinds of weird shit with your head down, your head tilted up, and they get you to a 9, which isn't active puking, so it's not air sickness, but you can swallow it. It's great. So I get to that point, but I'm still getting crazy migraines. The issue is my migraines precede my nausea.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent me to a neurologist. Neurologist, we're in there for less than 30 seconds. He's like, lay down, tilt your head back, look over here, hold it. Yeah, you got vestibular migraines. And I'm like, what? And he shows my wife, and you can see my eye, when you pull it all the way to the right and keep it focused on something, the eye twitches as it's trying to recapture or focus, and it can't, because I'm slanted backwards and my head's tilted, so it's spatial disorientation on a really large magnitude. So this throws me into my first MEB process, which
you have big issues with the MEB process.
I have lots of issues with the MEB process. One, this was technically the IDES process, but I was never informed of it in this was 2017, 16 timeframe window. And yeah, they were just like, you're going to the MEB. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, oh, they'll just let you know if they're going to kick you out or keep you in. And I'm like, I sent them a package. I went and did all the labor, went and called all these places. I was like, these are the aircraft that have a forward-facing aircraft with a window that I can sit in, and I won't puke. Mm-hmm. Sent it to them. I even was like, I have this many days of leave. I've already called the flight docs. They'll sit with me. This is the time, and I'll go and do it. Because I'm, at this point, quote unquote, worth $4 million of Air Force time and money and whatnot.
Plus, you're motivated to
yeah, I want to stay flying. I loved it. It was a great time. Rated was awesome. I liked my bag. It was fun. My pajamas were nice. And I forgot one thing. We had ground testing of stimulants and downers, and this is kind of where the area where I learned that I had something wrong with me, but my wife didn't believe me. My wife's a nurse. She has been for a while, and we got modafinil and another one. So modafinil is kind of like, it's another medication that's used to treat ADHD. And I took it, and I stayed up for 17 hours, but I unpacked our house and organized everything. Like, I felt like a god on it. And I told her that. She's like, yeah, that's what druggies say. And I was like, no, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's different. Like, I felt normal.
You were able to focus.
And it's not even just the focus part. You're able to just be and do things without exerting a shit ton of effort for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through the med process. They come back. They go, cool, you're not flying anymore. And I was like, are they taking my wings? Because I'm going to be living. They're like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. So you're able to keep your wings, but you can't fly anymore. You can't do anything. So you got to get reclassed. So what do you want to be reclassed as? And I was like, well, 17 Sierra. I'm a cyber dude. So go to reclass. And it took 7 months to get reclassed, or 6 months. No, shit, longer than that. Anyways, way too goddamn long. So I sat at the schoolhouse. I've been now, bear in mind, I've been a trainee since 14 until 2017.
Yeah.
Done nothing, have nothing on an OPR, EPR, whatever it is. And for anyone listening, that's our what have you done with your career thing. Like, you usually get one a year. Mine are all training reports. So right. I have no accolades, nothing. Rolling into a career where people spend 6 months as a cyber guy and then go into their career. So I'm already 3 years behind on shit. I'm like, all right, whatever. I've got a degree in it. It's not that big of a deal. And then I got rolled over to 2Com, which is Second Communications at Barksdale. While there, I learned a lot about being an officer from the enlisted there, and from the commander that came in. And he's not in anymore, and I can't remember his name. The DO at the time was a person named Major Gutierrez. I think he was a lieutenant colonel now, maybe full bird now. Amazing dude. He was running commander at the time, and then we got our other commander in, and those two showed me what actual leadership in a squadron should be run like. Learned my first lesson in don't go directly to enlisted and tell them to do something. Tell their supervisor, because if you tell them, it's going to override whatever the supervisor told them.
Yeah.
Some seniors pulled me aside as little LT Muddiman and schooled me on it correctly, as a senior should. While I'm there, I'm pretty beat up. I'm pretty mentally pissed. Like, just I'm not depressed to the point I'm gonna hurt myself, but I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do in my life? Like, what else am I going to do? Like, why I wanted to fly and I don't fly anymore. And an opportunity came up to go to this place called Pivotal Labs out in Boston to work on software design for the Air Force. So I got to live in Boston, which is close to home, like an hour and a half, for almost 6 months. It was from September, August to January. I had to come back and take over as flight commander and then leave in March for schooling. But that kind of helped me get over that, because I was working with computers. I was working with people like me and getting back into re-blued kind of deals, what my commander and stuff said at that time. So, and then I go off to cyber school in March of 18, go through cyber school. And I say go through it, mainly I dove. I did a shit ton of diving in Biloxi, Mississippi. I have like 15 certifications. I did a lot of that. That was fun. I was kind of upset that I had to go and they wouldn't waiver me, but when I look back on it, I'm thankful I went, because there are people there that have been godsends. Mm-hmm. I'm not a religious guy, and I say that in the respect of getting to what me and my wife have been doing for IVF. They helped us in immense ways as far as places to stay and just support in general. So whenever they hear this, they'll know who they are. But I've made at least two of my best friends in the Air Force. I didn't even make this good of friends in the Air Force under CISO. I did at Cyber. And we were a hodgepodge group of fucking misfits in this class. I mean, I'm talking people from missiles, logistics, whatever. We were all just thrown together as a reclass group. Right. So we're late lieutenants, captains, majors, whatever. So down there for 6 months, then I go to San Antonio. Cyber stuff there. And holy shit, big Air Force is different than rated Air Force. It's like you're talking spec ops versus, like, your infantry versus normal army, right? Same thing. I get there, they're like, oh, you got to do this. I'm like, I've never touched DTS. I have no idea what you want me to do for schooling. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, do you see these wings on my chest? They had an OSS to do, an operational support squadron to do those for us. I walked in there, they had me a package, and I left.
Right.
I didn't do any of it. So here I am trying to figure that shit out. And then I come back and they're like, you're going to be an SDO. And I'm like, what the hell is this? They're like, senior duty officer. So I don't know how much you know about cyber. So think of it as a SOC, a security operations center. Same idea, except for the entire Air Force.
Okay.
Now, I haven't known much of the Air Force, but I'm about to real fast. Because the schoolhouse didn't explain a lot of the stuff like they should have. Anyways, so they're like, you're going to work Panama 12s. I'm like, I don't know what Panama 12s are. They're like, you're 12 hours on, 12 hours off, 2 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off, cycling until we shift you and you rotate every 2 months, night and days. And I was like, for how long? They're like, 2 years-ish. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Anyways, we start doing that, and that's miserable. So my wife's working days, and then I get put on nights, and I bounce back and forth a few times, and I get hit nights again, and I'm like, I just want to stay on nights because something is happening, and I can't handle days. Like 12-hour days of that level of, we're talking MAGCOM, numbered Air Force, like shit going on in the world. The amount of information that was coming on me, I couldn't handle it. Not that I couldn't, I didn't, something was going on and I didn't know what it was at that stage of my life. And I was like, nights is easier. I can focus, I can do shit. So other people had kids and I was like, I'm just going to use it. I didn't tell anyone why I was doing it. And part of it, I did want to help them because I didn't have kids. It was just me and my wife. And we had cats, so I didn't need to be home for my dogs. So I was like, I'm going to stay nights and I will roll nights with every team. And I did. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my master's as well because I was going to need it for major. So I started doing that. And at nights, you're some downtime, anyone that's worked them. So I started going down a rabbit hole and I was like, something's broken. Something's broken. I don't want to be broken. And I think I sent you the links for the stuff that I looked at. And I just stumbled on a TED Talk by a girl who started her own YouTube called How to ADHD. And it shook me. You can even hear it now. But yeah, that was a huge point.
Yeah. What did that video do for you? Kind of put things into perspective about how you had been living your life?
Yeah, it put into perspective. So it's called failing at normal.
Yeah.
Like when you hear that and you see it and you're just listening to it and you're going, wow, my life could be so much easier. And it's not. But then I went down the thing of, I don't want to be broken.
Right.
I can't be broken. They'll kick me out. I can't let them see that I have a condition because I've heard people go, oh, I can't be on my ADHD meds. They won't let me in, or they'll kick you out, or you have to go to the therapist. And coming from the rated side, you didn't go to the doctor for shit. It's like the infantry. You don't go. Because if you go, you get deniffed. If you get deniffed, they go, oh, well, you can't make your line. Now you're putting us back on flights and sorties and their time. I'm like, you guys got to do better. The rated side is screwed on medical. Those guys are hurting. That's another pet peeve of mine. The leadership has got to fix their shit as far as that. And that's a way different topic. But yeah, so I'm sitting there doing my college stuff, doing that. And prior to this, I had another thing that happened before I went on nights was I got picked up for SOS, which is Squadron Officer School. Now, mind you, I'm on the three enclaves, Nipper, Sipper, and JWICs. For anyone who doesn't know, those are our three classifications. And I'm managing all these inboxes as the SDO. I don't look at my fucking email. I don't have time. You don't have time on day shift. And you get home, you go to bed, and then you wake up and do it again, right? And then on days off, you try to be normal for a couple hours and do shit.
Hey, give me a minute, man. I'm going to go let these dogs out.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
No, you're fine.
All right, my bad.
You can see Franklin here. Franklin's my orange tabby I've had since Pensacola. We got him from my brother when we stopped down and visited him in Carolina, and he had him as a stray, and I said I'll come back and get him. And my wife, being the amazing wife she is, when I went to DOS Aviation out in Colorado, and I won't mention the nickname for DOS Aviation in Colorado, I'll tell you afterwards. Those that know will probably giggle. She drove to Carolina and picked him up and brought him back before I came back in Colorado. So, nice. Another thing, I went to SEER training while I was at Barksdale, even though I couldn't fly anymore. That was pretty dope. So that helped me.
SEER is one of the best schools anybody's ever been to. Everybody that I talk about it, with says that SEER is yeah, it's a shit school, like it sucks, but also like you learn a lot about who you are as a person at that
You
school.
do. And I was like, they go like, you're going to SEER, and I was like, I can't fly anymore, right? They're like, yeah, you've got a line number. I was like, I do want to go, but is there anyone else that needs to go that isn't going? They're like, nah. And I was like, sure,
Damn. All
because
right,
it
I'll
doesn't
go.
matter if I fail, because I
Right.
don't need it, right?
Right.
So when I get there, I tell the instructors, I'm like, listen, I'm medically DQ'd from flying. I'm here because I just want the experience and the knowledge. And so they had to give me a yellow helmet because I technically had a head condition, quote unquote. So it limited what they could do to me. So you got to wear a yellow helmet and be a weirdo, which is fine. And then so yeah, I'm on night shifts. Sorry, the SOS thing. So I'm not seeing my emails, right? And what is the job of your senior enlisted that are handling the HR things for people going to schooling, trainings? So they're supposed to tell you
Check
you're
email.
going.
Yeah, right.
Right. Also, I'm required per the email to respond. They're not supposed to enroll me unless I agree to go. Lo and
They
behold,
did
I
to
got
me.
I got enrolled to go. Didn't know. Now we had a down day that year, and I happened to go to the down day because I was supposed to. And I show up and they go, Muddiman, why are you here? And I'm like, what do you mean, why am I here? They're like, you're supposed to be at SOS. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm supposed to be at SOS? They're like, yeah, didn't you see the email? I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm on pant. Really? You think I'm going to see that one email out of a fucking 100,000 of them?
Right.
Anyways, that got into a situation where I saw a different side of some senior leaders that shouldn't exist when I actually went to light up AATC for failing to follow their own protocols. And they're like, you can't tell them that. I'm like, what do you mean I can't tell them that? It's in their regs. It's in the email that says, yes, I'm to blame. I didn't see my email. Got it. But I still didn't respond to the email. And you
Right.
still enrolled me. And now you're saying it's my fault, even though all of my leadership knew and no one fucking told me.
Wild.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've gotten to this point where I'm looking at these videos, and now I'm down a rabbit hole. I'm trying to find every solution. I'm like, okay, I think I have ADHD, and I didn't tell my wife at this point. But we kind of had an idea. My family has some Asperger's syndrome in it, so I'm like, okay, maybe it's part that. Doctors say it's not, but whatever. And then I'm looking for every non-drug combination for ADHD. Changing diet, changing sleep pattern, changing exercise, changing, you name it, I tried it. And I'm like, nothing's fucking working.
Yeah.
And this whole time, I've been wanting to get into red teaming. I don't know if you know what red teaming is.
That's the one. If I was to go into cybersecurity, that's the team I'd want to be on. That's the
That's
one.
what
They're the ones going out and breaking into shit, right?
Yeah, so red teaming, there's a few aspects of it. Some people are like, oh, that's pen testing. Different, very different. They part of the same Venn diagram, not the same thing. Red teaming acts as an adversary.
Yeah,
Pen testing is testing your defenses, but the red teaming is you don't know they're there, and they're coming to break your shit, and then tell you what's broken to fix it.
Right.
Physically and on the bytes and across the wire.
Digital side, yeah.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do that. It's always been fun, pen testing that stuff. That's what I want to do with my career, and I'm working towards it after I figure out my shit here. But yeah, so I was in with a friend down here. He was a red team lead, and he was like, yeah, it's an option down at the guard. And I was like, what do you mean the guard? So I didn't know they had the guard wings down here. Like the wing that I was at, the 184th, has 3 cyber units all in one wing. So he was like, yeah, if there's a position open, you can apply for it. But going from what's called active duty to AGR, palace chasing, is really, really hard. Like they were surprised that I got it when I got accepted to it. And that's another story that I'll get into, which kind of, it's not a knock on them, but it leads into all of my medical shit and beneficial in some ways. So a job came open, and a buddy, he was a civilian. He was like, hey, this job came open at the 177th. Do you want to go? And this is during COVID. So this is, I heard about it at the middle of 2020. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, you want to go to Kansas? She's like, do I want to go to Kansas? And I was like,
nobody wants to go to Kansas.
So one of the big things is that as you're approaching major, you're looking at a 18-month to 2-month, like no kidding, orders all the time as leadership. You're
right.
This, that, changing command, going there, getting all the experience. And I was like, I can't do it. And I don't know why I can't do it. Like me moving at that time, we had moved Pensacola to, so from Massachusetts and Connecticut, where she's from, to Pensacola, to Barksdale, from Barksdale to Biloxi, from Biloxi to San Antonio. We moved 5 times in a little less than 4 years. Right about 4 years, because I'd been captain in July of 18. So that's a lot of moving, and I couldn't get my shit together for those moves. So I was like, I can't do that. So I would like to go and chase this, and we did. And I interviewed for the job, and I got it. So I was supposed to work at the unit down here, and I didn't because there was a manning issue, some issue with the documents and moving people around. So they put me at another squadron. But getting to that, so I sent my wife down here, and we bought a house sight unseen. My realtor was amazing during the brutal fucking ice storm in 21. We have well water here. None of us have ever lived on well water, so her well froze.
Great.
I had no power in Texas, but I had a fireplace with gas. And living in the Northeast, I know how to operate in the cold. So I've got sheets hung up, isolating the first floor, running pots of hot water on my gas stove because everyone else has electric. Because that was one of our things. Me and the wife were like, gas. I need gas. And all my neighbors came over like, why is this so nice? And I was like, I got a gas fireplace and a gas stove. It's great. So he'd bring his kids over and we'd hang out. I had internet because I was running my router off of my diesel truck. I had an inverter set up. It was great. I was like living a camping lifestyle. Anyways, so she gets here in January 21. I don't get here till April of 21. So she's here 3 months by herself while I'm doing shit back in Texas, out processing, setting up the Rentworks. By the way, fuck Rentworks. Never use them for anything. They're pieces of shit for property management. I've heard you're a property management person. This is an actual fucking company, and they're garbage. Anyways, did all that stuff, got it on the market, came down here. When I got down here, I walked in, they're like, oh, hey, you're going to the 127th. And I was like, that's not the 177th. They're like, yeah, we know. There's been an issue.
To that number.
we're going to get you over there. I'm like, I don't even know what the 127 does. So if you pull up their Wikipedia page, they're cyber protection team. I don't know if you know what that is. We say this, and everyone's going to go, oh, that's not what it is. QRF. They're quick reaction force for cyber. Some shit's going down on the network. You send them out. They go work on it. They look at a possible intrusion on your network and try to hone it down and lock it down, figure out where it's coming from, and fix it. Right.
Good enough for me. Right.
Yeah. That I'm trying to assimilate it to something. A QRF force. You get an attack on a base. You send a QRF out, and you do the thing, fix it, and then you leave. You're not there permanently, kind of deal.
Right.
So that's what they do, and I didn't know their mission and any of that stuff. So I come in, they're like, oh, you're going to be flight commander or maintenance. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know shit about this weapon system. It's classified as a weapon system for funding. I know it's not an actual weapon. Anyway, so I'm doing that, and they're like, oh, I'll read all these documents. And I'm like, read all these documents? I look at them. I can't read them for more than 5 minutes before I'm lost, bored out of my mind.
Yeah, bored to tears, I imagine.
God, yeah. So going through that, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then things slowly start getting worse. Because now I'm a captain. I was a captain in 2018, so I was coming close to major at 8 years. That was 2022, so I'm going for major. I'm like, now I'm behind the desk more. I'm working more managerial, administrator stuff, and I just can't keep up with it. And then this is when they released the Hammer PT test. This is where my knee injury comes in. July of 22, I'm doing a practice test because I have a test in August. And in January, I did my PT test, and it felt like I got hit with a sledgehammer in the chest. And that comes in later, talking about the COVID vaccine and possible myocarditis, and people calling that bullshit. And anyone listening can go do their own research if they don't still believe that. But that's another story. So I blow out my knee in July simply doing the hammer test. And do you know what the hammer is? Suicides on a timer. So you're running X amount for X amount of time frame, and then the tone changes, and then it's faster. Like you run here to here you tone, you touch the line before the next tone. If you miss that line, you can then make it to the next line before the next tone. You you still get one more shot, and you can make it to the next one before the next toe, and you're good. But by then, you're probably not doing any more. So it just gets faster and faster. But it's beneficial for slow. It's a different option to the 1.5 mile run.
Okay.
So I mapped it out. Everyone did, but that's just who I am analytically. I'm like, where is the sweet spot for this, right? Where is this beneficial? Where is it not? So anyone that runs really fast, don't do it. It's bad because you have to run like 90 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be running for like longer than your 1.5 mile run would have been.
So this is good for guys like me who were built to carry heavy shit on our back and not run for 13-minute 2 miles.
Right. So you could do technically the same score running cumulatively less doing the hammer than your time in the 1.5 mile would be. And that's what I expect you to explain that divergence with people. I'm like, if you're at this point, just run. If you're at this point, do the hammer. And then you kind of figure out what you're better at. So I was doing that in July because I wanted to try it before my actual, because you could do a practice PT test prior to your real 1 month prior. And if your practice PT test is good, you can use it as your actual one. And then it resets your time to that new month. So I'm doing these hammers. And one of them, I just plant, twist, snap. My knee just lets go. And I'm like, I must have just popped it. And I go to run. I ran 3 steps and was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm out.
Yeah.
I told my wife and she goes, oh, you just sprained it. You're fine. Whatever. Just put some ice, just rice it, right? The same. By the way, I've blown my ankles 3 times up to this point that I didn't cover. One of them was a severe ankle injury in ROTC, so covered. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay for that shit. But that goes on my medical stuff. So a month later, I go to the doctor, and this poor man, Captain Garcia, I believe was his name. I hit this dude with 10 years, of shit, yeah. And I was like, listen, I'm here because of my knee, but January I felt like I got hit by a sledgehammer. I dislocated my knee. I think I have ADHD. I've got 3 blown ankles. My neck hurts. My shoulders are shot. I think the neck and stuff was from the pilot stuff with the helmet, and my neck just wasn't built for it. I don't know. My back got jacked up during COVID. When I got COVID in Pensacola or in fucking San Antonio, I literally got COVID a day after I got the shot. So coincidence or not, I don't know. But anyways, I couldn't stand vertically. I was at a 45, 50 degree angle, or 45, 40, like lower. I couldn't erect my back for weeks. They had to give me muscle relaxers, and it's still jacked up. So I told him all this stuff, and he's like, okay, priority 1 is your heart. We're going to go cardio. Make sure that's good. 2nd's your knee. We got that set up. And so they sent me to an ortho, and the ortho, so this guy's been doing knees here for some university football players and stuff out of University of Kansas, all that stuff. And he goes and he looks at me. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, this. He reaches down, touches my right knee, which is my good knee. He's like, okay, that's a little loose. He touches my left knee and goes, whoop, and just slips it out. And he's like, that's about a 90% dislocation. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, that's bad. So he's like, you almost severed your VMO, which is your vasta medius oblique, which keeps your knee on the inside of where your groin is. It keeps it tracking inside to pull it over the groove. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, you need surgery. He's like, we're going to try rehab because we have to per the Air Force, but we're going to have to surgery on that. I was like, okay. So we do all the stuff. We try all the therapy and whatnot, and it doesn't work. And then my surgery is scheduled for January. Also at this time, I'm going to talk to a therapist for what I believe is ADHD. This lady is a reservist who specializes in ADHD on base. So amazing. Great. No, nothing against this lady. There were some wires crossed when we talked about it. But we talked, and I was like, she didn't write anything in my record, which I asked her not to, because at this point in time, I'm like, if it gets written in there, I'm fucked. They're going to kick me out, because she was like, they can't do that. Like, that's not a thing, and that myth needs to go away. Either way, it's still in the back of my mind, coming from the rated side, coming from all the people I talk to that have it, etc. So she's like, you 100% have it. I have no doubt you have ADHD. I won't write it in there. I will say undiagnosed. However, this is my last day on orders. I'll make a note for you to come see me off base. This is important because now I'm trying to go see her off base, and she's like, no, I can't see you because I'm not there anymore. I'm like, oh my God. So now I do all this stuff, and that lags my diagnosis for almost 2.5 months before I can get in to see another therapist on base, and then they have to redo testing.
Yeah.
There's a test
Start the whole process all over again. Yeah.
Right, but it was a test that she didn't do, which is fine. They don't all do it. And he was like, yeah, I see her notes, but I want to do my own testing. And there's a test. I can't think of it right now. But they have you sit in a room, stare at a black dot, and there's a square in the center of the screen. It's a white background, black square with a black dot. Hit the button when it's in the black circle or black square. The room is supposed to be like devoid of why can't I think of the word? Distractions. Thank you. Distractions.
Yeah.
But there's a bookshelf next to me. There's a hand pump with a blinking light on it. So I'm sitting there. I think I aced this fucking thing. It's only, I think it's like 20 or 30 minutes long. Time flies by like that, like nothing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did real good. And he's like, come on, see your results. I was like, did I win? He's like, depends on what you wanted. And I was like, oh, that's not good. So we sit down and he's like, oh, the TOVA test, TOVA, TOVA. For anyone that's interested, it's called a TOVA test. Welcome to the ADHD brain. So we sit down and he's like, yeah, you're definitely ADHD, no questions. And I was like, how do you know? He's like, because you're like way over here on like the symptom. Like there's a lot of things in there that allow it to diagnose. You can't fake the test. Like, because people will try and time it, like, because people are very
you can't game the test. You know, there's a lot of tests out there you can game.
He's like, this one, it's been built in. Now it's not a perfect thing, but with your background and talking, because they do a family history thing and talk, and they ask for your parents for you to call them and go through a bunch of stuff. And that's where I get into my childhood of, I was super quiet, but internally in my brain never stopped. That's my issue, was that I couldn't shut down my brain. Even sleeping, that's when my brain was like, oh, we're not doing other shit? Let's go. Yeah. Hours of just thoughts from all day long, projects. ADHD people are called hobby collectors because we'll bounce from one thing to the next thing to the next thing because we get bored. But then we'll cycle back. So we try to find like 5 or 6 we really like and just keep recycling them. And that's where I think gaming is. I play World of Warcraft, have for about 20 years now. And I think that helped me focus that energy when I needed it to just get that dopamine hit. And that was also an issue with sugar for me. After diagnosis, I don't drink a lot of sugar anymore, but I could drink a 2-liter a day of Mountain Dew. Easy. No questions.
Oh yeah.
Caffeine didn't do shit for me. Energy drinks, none of that stuff.
Dude, so this is, man, your story is incredible, and I think it's important to tell your story. Your ADHD brain, and probably mine as well. We've already hit the hour, so I think this is a really good stopping point, and I'm going to bring you back for part 2, 3, 4, however many it takes to get the rest of your story out there.
Yep. So you want to hit the transition.
Oh yeah, definitely want to hit the transition, and I think it's important that you're saying, you're telling all of your story to this point to get us to kind of the transition and the challenges you're going to face in the transition. So it's definitely important to lay all this out there.
Yeah. Sorry it took so long.
No, you're good, dude. That's what this is for. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you Alex Muddiman part 1 right now. We will be back in the future with parts. I don't know how many you think we're going to get. Your analytical brain over there.
We're pretty much at the end for there. The transition part, I would say, is a big chunk as far as making sure people understand that process. I would like to. The backstory is important for understanding how I approached it and got to it and why I was the way I was in it. Pretty aggressive at sometimes with people. And the amount of detail that's in there for people to understand of where they can go for resources, what the regs say, what they are entitled to as a member for services. And if anyone tells you different, they can kick rocks and find the reg. So,
well, and I think this is all great because I wonder how many other people went through their careers like you did. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, seriously, like you're not the only one.
So I was a major. Now think of this. I was a major at this point, and I was getting pushback from people about all kinds of shit. Now think of an E3 that has a medical issue that's trying to do a transition and is getting told they have to do this, and they go to the reg and they go, no, I don't. And they go, too bad, you're gonna. As an 04, I went to my commander and went, I'm about to go light this place on fire. I'm going to ask you to try and diplomatically handle this before I do.
Right.
Because at the time, they knew I would.
Right. But Alex, thank you so much for the time today. We will get together offline, and we'll bring you back on for part 2. And dude, just super grateful you were willing to come and share this, because I think, like we're talking about, man, this is important for our community to understand. Like, you're not alone in your challenges and your struggles, and I guarantee you're not the only one who's been through something similar to this.
I never expected to be invited somewhere for a podcast, so thank you. I was ranting and yelling into the void on LinkedIn, and you were like, bro, I want you to tell your story.
Yeah. And we're going to do that, man. We're going to tell the whole fucking thing. I don't care if this is a 25-part series.
It shouldn't be that long.
But I do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Muddiman, part 1. We'll be back with a part 2, 3, 4, probably 3. I see 3. But take care. We'll see you next week with another awesome episode. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.